Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. Chapter 2, in which Passepartout is convinced that he has found his ideal. Upon my word, Passepartout to, to himself, I know that Madame Tussaud's good people as lively as my new master. It is proper to say here that Madame Tussaud's good people are wax figures, much visited to London, and who, indeed, are only wanting in speech. During the few minutes that he had interviewed Phileas Fogg, Passepartout examined his future master, rapidly but carefully. He was a man that might be 40 years old, a fine handsome face and of tall figure, which of slight corpulence did not disparage. His hair and whiskers were light, his forehead compact, without any appearance of wrinkles at the temples. His face was rather pale than flushed, his teeth magnificent. He appeared to possess in the highest degree of what psychologist called "repose of action", a quality common to those who do more work than talking. Calm, phlegmatic, with clear eye and immovable eyelids, he was a finished type of those cold-blooded Englishmen so frequently met in the United Kingdom, and though whose somewhat academic posture Angelica Kauffmann had marvellously reproduced under her pencil, as seen in the very acts of existence. This gentleman gave the idea of a well-balanced being in all his parts, evenly hung, as perfect as Leroy or Earnshaw chronometer. Indeed, Phileas Fogg was the exactness personified, but he was clearly from the expression of his feet and hands. For with a man, as well as animals, limbs themselves are organs and express passion. Phileas Fogg was one of those mathematically exact people, who, never hurriedly and always ready, are economical of their steps and motions. He never made one stride too many. He was only going by the shortest route. He did not give an idle look. He did not allow him to a superfluous gesture. He had never been seen or moved or troubled. He was a man of the least possible haste. He always arrived in time, however. It would be understood that he lived alone, so to speak, outside of every social relation. He knew that life one must take his share of friction, and as friction retards, he never rubbed against anyone. As for Jean, called Passepartout, a true Parisian of Paris, and he had sought vainly for a master one who he could attach himself to. In the 5 years he had lived in England and served as valet of London, Passepartout was not one of those frontons of or masquerades, who, with high shoulders, nose high in the air, and look of assurance, a staring eye, only impudence and dunces. No, Passepartout was a good fellow of amiable physiognomy, his lips a little prominent, always ready to taste or caress, a mild and serviceable being, with one of those good round heads that we like to see on shoulders of a friend. His eyes were blue, his complexion rosy, his face flat enough for him to see his cheekbones, his chest broad, his form full, his muscles vigorous, and he possessed a Herculean strength in which his youthful exercise had splendidly developed. His brown hair was somewhat tumbled, in which an ancient sculptor knew 18 ways of arranging Minerva's hair. Passepartout knew but one thing to fix his own: 3 strokes of a large tooth comb, and it was dressed. The most meagre stock of prudence would not permit of saying that experienced character of this young man would be to agree that of Phileas Fogg would Passepartout be in all respects that exactly the servant his master would indeed need. That would only see him by using him, and after had, we suppose we have seen him, a quite wandering youth. After he longed for repose, he, having heard the exactness and proverbial coolness of the gentleman praised, he came to seek his fortune in England, till the present fate had treated him badly, and he had not been able to take the route anywhere. He had served in 10 different houses, every one were capricious and irregular, running after adventures or about the country, which no longer suited Passepartout. His last master, young Lord Longsferry, member of the Parliament, having passed his nights in Haymarket oyster rooms, returned home too frequently on the shoulders of policemen. And Passepartout, wishing all above things was to able to respect his master, ventured some mild remarks which were badly received, and left. In the meantime he learned that Phileas Fogg was hunting for a servant. He made some inquiry about this gentleman, a person whose existence was so regular, who never slept in a strange bed, who did not travel, who was never absent, not even for a day, but could and could not but suit him. He already presented himself, and was accepted under the circumstances that we already know. It was 11:30. Passepartout found himself alone in the Saville mansion. He immediately commenced inspection, going over it from his cellar to garret. This clean, well-ordered, and unimportant house, well organized for servants, pleased him, and produced effect upon him of a fine snail shell, one but lighted by heated gas for carbonic hydrogen, answered both purposes. Passepartout found without difficulty in the second story the room was designed for him. It suited him. Electric bells and speaking tubes put in communication with lower stories on the mantel, and an electric clock corresponded with one of Phileas Fogg's bedchamber, both beating at the same time at the same instant. "That suits me, that suits me," said Passepartout. He observed also in his room a notice fastened by the clock. It was a programme for the daily service. It was compromised from 8 o'clock in the morning, regular hour at which Phileas Fogg rose, until 11:30, in which hour he left his house to breakfast at the Reform Club, all the details after shaving water at 37 minutes after 9, the toilet after 20 minutes before 10, etc. Then, from half past 11 in the morning till midnight, the hour at which the methodical gentleman retired, everything was noted down, foreseen, and regulated. Passepartout took pleasure in contemplating this programme, impressing upon his mind in the various directions. As to the gentleman's wardrobe, it was in very good taste, and wonderfully complete. Each pair of pantaloons, or coat, or vest bore a regular number, which was also entered upon a register, indicating the date at which, according to the season, these garments were to be worn in their turn. The same rule applied to his shorts. In short, this house was a Savile Row, in which the time of the illustrious but dissipated Sheridan must have been the temple of disorder. Its comfortable furniture indicated a delightful ease. There was no study, there was no books, which would have been no use for Mr. Fogg, since the Reform Club placed at his disposal two libraries, one devoted to literature, the other to law and politics. In his bedchamber there were a medium-sized safe, whose construction protected it from fire as well as from burglars. There were no weapons in the house, neither for the chase nor for war. Everything there had been noted for the most peaceful habits. After minutely examining the dwelling, Passepartout rubbed his hands, his broad face tightened, and he repeated cheerfully, "This suits me, this place is for me. Mr. Fogg and I will understand each other perfectly. A home body, so methodical, a genuine automation. Well, I am not sorry to serve in automation."